Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we host the head groundskeeper of the Baltimore Orioles, Miss Nicole Sherry. Nicole is one of two female head groundskeepers in Major League Baseball and has become an industry leader through her work not only on the field, but in the organization of the Sports Turf Managers Association. She has been a huge supporter of our program as we had the opportunity to take a virtual tour of Camden Yards last year when COVID struck back in March of 2020. It has been an awesome time getting to know Ms. Sherry over the past few years and to really see what she does and how much passion she has for this industry, not only because of what she has learned, but because of what she has developed in Baltimore in her time there and seeing how she has become a staple in this industry. We discuss different aspects of her job and how she maintains the Kentucky Bluegrass field at Camden Yards and how important tradition is to the stadium and how important it is to the grounds crew themselves and how they operate and how they maintain the field. Students had an awesome opportunity to learn about a day-to-day job when it comes to the grounds crew at Camden Yards and really get to see what it takes to be a professional groundskeeper in Major League Baseball. She is such an inspiration to our students and has done a fantastic job of inspiring women across America in being a male-dominated workforce in sports turf management, to the point where we have the first graduate of our program in attendance at Virginia Tech and the hopes to become one of the first female head groundskeeper in the National Football League. We want to thank Ms. Sherry for her time, and we really appreciate all that she's done for our program. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 17th episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller, with your co-host, Rylan Harris. Today we have on a very special guest, Miss Nicole Sherry, the head groundskeeper of the Baltimore Orioles. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. So I actually want to start off by saying you were sort of the inspiration behind this. For those that don't know, when COVID hit last year in March, we had contacted her about the possibility of doing a virtual tour, which was the highlight of our COVID learning back in the day. I say back in the day because now it's almost a year ago. That's crazy to think about. We're only a couple months from that, but it was sort of the inspiration behind having industry professionals on a week-to-week basis. So thank you so much for that. And I think the kids had so much fun, and it was great to just see the ins and outs of Camden Yards. So today I want to sort of start off with a sort of a normal way we start. You're such an inspiration to so many people in this industry. And with everything that you've done and accomplished, could you sort of give us an idea of what your journey through the industry has been? From where you started. I remember talking to you about Trenton Thunder and different places that you worked and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So studied agriculture with Delaware Technical Community College. And my goal was to eventually become an agronomist, but that path kind of like took a sideways turn. And I started my career out at Bear Trap Dunes Golf Club. And I was just a greenskeeper trying to learn how to cut tees, greens, a lot of bunker rakes, weed eating, that sort of thing. And then my class took a field trip to Camden Yards for irrigation. And we got a tour of the ballpark, and I grabbed the head groundskeeper's business card at the end of the tour. And a year or so later, I contacted him to see if there was any internship available. And it miraculously happened that there was. And I moved to Baltimore. It was 2001, so I was able to see Cal Ripken's last game as an Oriole, as a major league athlete. So that was really awesome. And eventually worked my way up as an assistant with the Orioles, and then went to the Trenton Thunder as a head groundskeeper, and then back to the Orioles in 2006 as head groundskeeper.
So can you explain for us your educational background, like what
Sure.
your college experience was like and how important it was to where you are now?
Yes, absolutely. So I started out in high school. I always knew that I wanted to do something with agriculture. And I took that route by going to the community college first because I felt that if I'm going to dive into this, I'm a city girl, like grew up in an urban area. So farming and agricultural life was not, in my everyday. So I wanted to take a kind of a slow path to get where I am. Went to Delaware Technical and Community College, studied agriculture, learned everything from poultry production to weed science to, gosh, you name it. I learned it, hands-on irrigation, some turf management classes. And then eventually I went back to get my 4-year degree from the University of Delaware in general agriculture because that's eventually where I wanted to be as an agronomist, but kind of found my way into turfgrass and just kind of fell in love with it and been here ever since. And I think it's really important to, take those steps, go slow into really what you want to do in your career because you don't know if it's going to be for you. So, taking these classes that you're all in now, and then maybe some classes in college that you may not have ever taken or wanted to take before, just to see where your career is going to lead you.
I'm similar with the community college route. It's definitely a great idea, and you save a lot of money, so that's huge.
Yes, and you learn a lot of things hands-on, which really is the way that I learn. I learn more by hands-on and doing, and not just straight from a book, but I got to see really some incredible things in the community college path instead of like the 4-year university institution.
And this is perfect segue. You're talking about hands-on and how important that was to you. Can you explain to the kids how important your internships were from the golf course to working at Camden Yards, and how much of a role that plays into your career as a whole, and if it's a good idea for the kids at this age? We have students who are doing internships all over the place, but if people are sort of skeptical, curious if they should or shouldn't, if it's a good idea or not to do at a high school stage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think if you guys and girls have an opportunity to take an internship now, just to see, like I said earlier, like to see if this is a path that you really want to like focus on in the future. I mean, you're in high school, college it can take a long time to get through college, and then eventually in your career. And we're talking about years and years of, the job market, coming to you. Like, I don't know if that probably didn't sound right, but you have a long career path ahead of you. So I think taking an internship in something that you're interested in and kind of getting through it and seeing if that's something that you want to pursue in the future is huge. If that's like what I was saying, I went into golf, but I didn't really like it. I liked the greenskeeping aspect of it, but I didn't really like golf. So getting an internship with the Orioles and doing sports turf, I found that was where I really wanted to be. And the hands-on classes, the hands-on experience that I received in the internships were, crucial to where I am now.
So before we really dive into the turfgrass management, can you explain to us the students the different types and the different aspects to your job that we might not see, like the aspects other than grass?
Yes. So in baseball, like we don't learn about taking care of mounds or dirt in school. I mean, we had hands-on classes with irrigation, cutting tees and greens, and the turf side of it. But the hands-on physical work of maintaining a baseball field with all the dirt and clay and just the way that the game is played is something that you need to learn hands-on. So that was something that I really was amazed by getting into the sports turf side of it. I deal with a lot of weather, meteorology, and was thankful that in my 4-year program that I took a meteorology class. So if anybody is trying to get into some kind of outdoor industry, definitely take some kind of classes revolving around weather. Irrigation is another thing that I really only dabbled in a little bit at the community college level. So having a more broader sense of what irrigation is and how to fix heads and definitely all the valve boxes and the wiring, that was huge. and also computer classes. I mean, I deal with a lot of spreadsheets, Excel, and budget. That was really something that I didn't really consider as I was going through my learning stages.
With all those different aspects, and computer is a whole nother thing, a whole new
Yeah,
level with everything that's going on.
right.
Could you sort of give what your job as head groundskeeper entails, sort of like maybe what you were told what your job would be, and how much beyond that it goes, in a sense of whether it's maintenance, whether it's dealing with the crew, labor, like you said, budgeting, stuff like that, with
Mhm.
everything sort of encompassing, what would be your best sort of description for the kids of what your job entails?
Most of my job now as head groundskeeper really revolves around the management side of it. I have to, run a 30-person crew. I have to deal with front office staff, revolving. I don't know why I keep saying resulting. Deal with front office staff in regards to weather and how this game is going to get played in different climates that we're faced with here in Baltimore. The management side of it is something that you can get a little bit of knowledge with that in schooling, but until you're face to face with somebody asking you hard questions and dealing with different personalities on a crew, you're going to kind of learn that on the fly, and how you want to be, how you're going to choose to be as a leader in your field, when you're dealing with management, how you want that projection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
What is your, so sort of dive into the turf grass side of things? What does your annual schedule look like in preparation for the season? Obviously, right now, it's a little bit on the colder side in Baltimore and everything. What are your steps and preparations for first pitch in April or March, whenever the
Right.
first day is?
Right. So currently, we're in the off season for baseball in specifically Maryland, right? So right now we're working on our equipment, making sure that's up and running, and anything that needs to be addressed or fixed with it gets taken care of now. February, we're starting to interview grounds crew applicants and tarp crew applicants, and trying to formalize our crew. And then March 1st, we're right back out on the field, trying to get the grass to wake up after the winter slumber and get the field in shape ready for play. On April 8th is when our opening day is this year. In April, May, June, we're really focused on fertilizing, cutting the grass on a daily basis, getting, obviously the game played in a high-end manner. And then in July, August, and September, we're really trying to manage that turf grass through one of the hardest, heat summers, humidity, anything that you can expect for turf during the hottest parts of, the season. And then in October, we're getting the field ready again for the next season. So if we're not in playoffs, then we're focusing on the agronomic side of getting everything in shape for the season, and then getting all buttoned up and ready to go to sleep. And then in November and December, we're taking some time off and much needed break, and kind of just
Well deserved.
well-deserved break, and spending time with family and friends, and right back at it again in January. So it's a long season, and there's something to do every month, but the focus is just getting the games, we're getting that field ready for play, and shutting it down at the end of the season so it's ready to start back up again in March.
So, like anything else, there's different philosophies on how things should be done and cared for turfgrass. So, could you explain to us what your philosophy is for taking care of the Kentucky bluegrass?
Right. So I've been fortunate enough to be in one place for a long time, and I understand the climate that Maryland presents. So my kind of philosophy in taking care of the turf is I don't try to overthink too much with it. I think the grass genetically has been around for a long time. It kind of knows what it's doing. I kind of trust my instincts on a lot of things, and trust the plant and what its life cycle is, and how to get through any adverse times with it. I guess that would be my philosophy. Like, I don't overthink too much. I try to depend on other leaders in our industry to, if I have any problems or concerns, for their advice. But at the end of the day, we're the ones that are seeing it on a daily basis, and we know when it's really at its limit or when it's just like getting ready to pop and really grow to the best of its ability.
And with what you're saying and how you've sort of become acclimated to the climate and everything that goes into Baltimore and Camden Yards, are there any major concerns that you're dealing with on an annual basis, whether it's summer patch, whether it's
Yeah.
just drought,
God.
just in general? What are the different sort of threats or concerns that you're having, and how do you combat those issues during the heart of a 81 game homestand, not homestand, but game season,
Right.
if you know what I mean?
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think that, my biggest challenge I think for just myself, as well as like trying to get the field ready in March, is one of the biggest challenges, because in March we could either have, beautiful spring days, or we can have 2 feet of snow that stays around for 2 weeks, and you have to have that field ready by April 1st,
You just gotta
so.
love the climate around here,
It's just really, I know that's the most difficult part of the job, is like, you're shut down for the winter, but then you only have 4 weeks to like hurry up and get it green and looking beautiful and ready to accept the play on the field. Summer months is also another challenge, because sometimes we can have 115-degree temperature days, and for consecutive days in a row on the field, and bluegrass liking only 85 degrees and under. That presents a huge challenge. And then add on top of that the amount of play that we have on the field, and then extra events that we may have, or concerts, or photo shoots, or commercials. That's another challenge. But during the time frame of April and May, that grass can really take a lot, and September and October can take a lot. So the most challenging times for me, again, is March, and then getting it ready, and then getting through the heart of that summer when it's just wanting to shut down, and we really just compound it with a lot of play.
So we discussed with Matt Brown on a previous podcast about this. So when it comes to mowing practices, Camden Yards is a classical ballpark that has created the match, is created, and it matches the warehouse.
Yeah.
When it comes to the patterns, do you do in the front office, how often do you rotate those mowing patterns?
Right. So because we're a classical ballpark, we don't really get too fancy with our mowing patterns. I mean, I think it's really cool. Like the Red Sox and Pirates might have something really neat out there that is very eye-catching. But because we're so retro, that we keep everything kind of simple. So we'll rotate our mowing patterns depending on the length of the homestand. If we have a 10-game homestand, we try to give the grass the easiest pattern to withstand that amount of play. And then we'll change it up when the team is on the road to a different pattern. So basically 4 different patterns, and they're all decided on by mainly the ground staff, and then also front office has a lot of influence on like what's too much, what's just enough for the retro style ballpark. And as you said, like, it's classic. I mean, it was built in 1992, and it's there to represent the older ballparks of the past. And our warehouse is one of the biggest focal points of the field. And its color is beautiful. It has 3 different colors in it. And we use those colors on our infield dirt as well as our warning tracks. So then as a fan, when you come in, your eye is aesthetically like drawn to that huge warehouse in the background. And everything kind of flows simple and elegant. And I think that really makes people like realize how it's a bigger ballpark than just the product on the field. It's not just the grass, it's everything in that entire ballpark. It's really cool.
It's one of the best in the country, I'll say it.
Thank you.
When it comes to, you were just talking about it with the front office.
Yep.
With the front office, you're technically a part of that. I know it sounds weird because obviously you're taking care of the field and all that. What is your role in the front office, and how much does the front office play a role on what you're doing, and what is that trust like? I know that a lot of front offices expect without knowing the science behind everything and the work that goes into it. What is the relationship like, and how does it play a role in your job as the head groundskeeper?
Right. So myself and my two assistants, we are considered front office, but to the general public, when they hear front office, you're talking about the GM of the team and the baseball side of front office. But there are so many people in our front office that make the magic happen. From PR to ticket sales to corporate sales to ground staff. So we are considered front office. And when I have to present or have meetings with front office individuals, my counterparts or senior leadership, anytime that I can interject the science of what's happening on the field, I will. So, we have, as an industry, developed this sort of like stereotype of, we're just here to cut grass and rake dirt, and every time I get an opportunity to expand somebody's knowledge of that, I will. There's a lot more to just mowing the grass in a certain direction or raking the dirt in a certain way for the playability of the field. It's also a lot of science that goes into this industry and what we're doing specifically at Camden Yards on a daily basis. So when they say to me that they want to have a concert, but then will only give us 3 days until the team comes back into town, that's when the science and the education and the way to manage people comes into play. And I can say, well, that's great. We need a concert for revenue, right? But we need more time to get that field in shape for the health and safety of our athletes that are out there. And I can do it, but this is what I need from you to help me achieve that goal. So it's all about communication, interjecting, like I said, the science knowledge, at correct points in time, and, just having a real conversation and being honest about what I do on a daily basis there. That helps.
Sounds great. And a lot of that, what you're talking about, the sort of the give and take between what their jobs are and what you're expecting of them. With everything that goes into what you're doing, budgeting wise, is pretty much the focus. What is it that is your decision making process of where money goes, whether it's putting it towards materials, whether it's putting it towards certain events? Obviously, again, with everything that's going on in the industry, it's become a huge event space in a sense,
Right.
beyond just this baseball. It's so much bigger than that. Is there any understanding from the front office, or is it more of a money grab type thing where do you see any of that money come back to you in your budgeting, or are you expected to cover things because of that? What is your decision-making process when it comes to budgeting anything?
Right. So I have a yearly budget, and that can fluctuate depending on, the price of items. Like if gas goes up, we know that fertilizer is going to increase. So like you have to add at least like 5% to your budget every year. But my way of approaching how I spend the money is more about equipment. It is a revenue generating field, right? We need to make money because money trickles down to the grounds crew. So, if the team does well, or if we do well selling tickets or extra events on the field, eventually we're all going to see that profit. So I have to be okay with that and know that, all right, you want to do this, but this will help me in the long run. So if I can put more money towards equipment and the type of equipment I can gather for our ground staff, that's going to be a huge help. And then also the second big item that I would spend money on is the chemical and fertilizer program that I run, because, you can't have a healthy field without the right products on there. Being in the minor leagues, like I had to do without. So I can, obviously I can make it look pretty with a lot less, fancy products. So I'm gonna go with the equipment one and getting newer equipment, more feasible equipment for the job that is at hand, or to make sure that grass is as healthy as possible.
So with that, you're talking about equipment.
Did I freeze?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of froze up a little bit. I don't know if you heard everything I
We
said.
okay now? Yeah, I heard. I think we heard. Riley, did you hear?
Okay.
Can we hear me? Sorry. All right. So you were talking about equipment and decisions on that. What have you seen change over the years, technology-wise, for you and your practices? I think you just talked about a Toro Outcross that you got, which
Oh
is
yeah.
one of the big up and coming pieces of equipment in the industry. Can you sort of speak to what you've seen, whether it's irrigation related, actual equipment you're using, or different
Oh
things
my gosh.
you use on a
There's
daily basis?
so many more cool products out there than when I was first coming up. Like before, it used to be just like reel mowers and aerators and then call it a day. And you're lucky if you had a sprayer. But now there's so many like new pieces of equipment. We acquired an Outcross, which is huge for us because now we can do a lot of the jobs in-house. Like we can aerate, we can use the front loader on it. You can interchange, you put forklifts on it. You can do so many things with that big piece of equipment. Aeration tools, like different types of tines. It's not just the cores or the needle tines anymore. They got these ninja needles. They got like shaker needles that you can use. Like there's so many pieces. And then we also just started using these things called dentist mowers, and another version would be an outlet mower, or I forget the other one that's out there, but they give such a fine cut to the turf, and you can like pull out the blades and then interchange it with like a verticutter or this kind of like the springtime piece that you can like clean up any like decomposing material from the field. So there's so many new innovative things that are out there that are beneficial to the turf manager that don't cost. The Outcross is pretty pricey, but like the other things that I mentioned are relatively inexpensive for what we have to do on a yearly basis. And wait, hold on. The irrigation side of it too. I know you're kind of like slow, so I don't know if you're hearing me or not.
I can hear you. Yep.
Freezing a little bit, but okay, good. The irrigation side of it, there's these moisture meter tools out there. There's like drones that you can fly that like, show you like the hottest part of your field or the coolest part. And like, like moisture meter sticks that you can use, like so many neat things out there that are just beneficial to the turf manager that, make your job a little bit more easier. And also you have data that you can show to the front office or the people that are higher up than you that may not, totally understand what you do. So you have facts, you present them with the data. That's what people want to see. Like, why is my field suffering? Well, let me show you. And you have all these like really cool things that you can use at your disposal.
That's huge because a lot of those guys are number crunchers and they like that kind of stuff. So by putting that in that situation, that's really cool. I think that's awesome.
Right.
You mentioned.
Well, let me tell you about this because this might be beneficial just to show like the management side of it. We had an irrigation system that was just your normal like remote irrigation. Like you turn it on and you set it and you go home, right? You set your days, your months, your time and all that stuff. But I was able to show with data that like we should invest in this remote irrigation, like that's generated by Wi-Fi. So like if I was at home and we had a pop-up thunderstorm that happened over the park, I can, just log into my computer and shut that water off. So number one, we weren't wasting water, and it just made more sense for water management. And it was only a $3,000 product, and it saved us thousands and thousands in the water usage. So that's huge when you're talking, like you said, to number crunchers or people that have the financial side of your industry, like at the grip, to be able to tell them that, hey, spend a little bit of money here. This is what we're going to save in the long run. So that's huge for people in our role to be able to present like that.
It'd be nice to have a little bit of the grip on our side of the industry, the money
Right.
side.
Yes.
So it would be very helpful. You mentioned on our virtual tour in the spring that you have some of the best assistants that you have in the industry. Can you explain the full makeup of your crew, like how many people you have working in certain spaces, or again, assistants versus full-time or seasonal?
Right. So I have 2 full-time assistants, and they're year-round as well as I am. And they have turf educated backgrounds, and they come from all over the country. And the 2 that I have right now, Andrew and Mike, one did some time in San Diego, and then Andrew was in North Carolina for a good bit and did his schooling there and worked closely with a lot of turf managers down there. So they're a great asset to what we do on a daily basis. I think it's important to have good assistants because you're number one, you're training them up to be a head groundskeeper somewhere, or to be in a higher up role than what they are right now in the future. And we all need time off. I have a little boy, he's 7, and I'm not going to be able to make some games, whether due to sickness or due to another commitment, or just life in general. So you want to have somebody or some people in place that can take over for you when needed, and that's what they are. Like, I'm not going to keep from them anything that I do on a daily basis. I want them to learn all the ins and outs of this position, how to address coaches, upper management, VPs, owners. I want them to be as prominent on that field as I am. And I think that's huge when you have somebody working side by side. If I can't answer the question, I'll go to Andrew or go to Mike. And if Mike can't answer it, he'll go to me or Andrew. Like, we're a big family. Other than them, I have 8 grounds crew members that work seasonally, but they're considered they're not full-time year-round, but they're there all the time from sun up to sundown till after the game is played. And they're the bones of the grounds crew. They're getting everything ready for the game and doing the hard labor as well as the science part of it and the agronomic side of it. And then I have 18 tarp crew members that are there to help us set up and break down for the game and be there to really essentially pull that tarp out alongside of us. So there are rain insurance, and there are a bunch of great people that work with us and bring in a lot of energy and excitement when they come in from their school day. We're all tired, but they come in with this crazy energy, and it just gets us through a tough homestand.
Now, you've mentioned you guys do a lot of work with different machines and things on the grass. So, how do you deal with the stress of all of those machines and things going over top of it? And
yeah, well, if it's then that's where your gut instinct comes to play, right? If something just doesn't look right, or if it's it's hot out, I don't know how to put it into words, but equivalent what I'm going through during the day in a hot environment, extra traffic, how would I feel? If it's too much, if I feel like the grass is taking too much, I'll just give it a few days off, not have any of those big machines out there and give it a break. It's not gonna, they're not going to see a huge difference in how much the grass grows in one day or in 2 days. We will, because that's what we're trained to do. But the general public or the people that play on that field aren't really going to notice those things. We're not taking any shortcuts. We're just really trusting our instincts to really just give it a break and know when enough is enough, and just try to baby it through those difficult times.
Sorry. I was muted, and so I started talking. I was interviewed by a couple of guys at the Golf Course Industry magazine, and he mentioned that you specifically with the Orioles have developed a program with a local golf course.
Yeah.
Could you sort of explain to us what that opportunity is, learning sort of both sides of what the turfgrass industry as a whole is, and how it sort of came to light?
Right. So it came to light. So the gist of it is that my friend Logan Freeman, he is the golf course superintendent at Mountain Branch Golf Course or Country Club or in Fallston, Maryland. He came down to visit and we were talking about he wasn't exposed to the sports turf. He was focused on golf and he came down and he was just kind of blown away that sports turf individuals do the same kind of maintenance work and agronomic work that golf course individuals do. And how cool would that be if he was exposed to that? So we started thinking about, ways to marry the two, how can I kind of get the word out that a sports turf managers do the same thing as golf course managers and vice versa. So we were talking and we thought it'd be really cool if we could do this internship program. Then I met Casey Koff with Trinity Golf Course in Dallas, and he was like, this is awesome. If I was coming up in college and if I had an option to choose taken an internship in sports turf, I would have jumped on it. But my career path, this is him talking, his career path was dedicated to just golf. And he said, what if we could offer a internship where you could expose yourself to golf and baseball and knock it out in one season instead of not wasting, but dedicating 2 years or 2 different internships to two different places. It kind of just cuts out if you're really set for golf or if you're really set for the sports side of it, of the turfgrass industry. And I think developing that with Logan and then with Casey, and then the current one that I have working now is a local golf course in Maryland that we're going to get together and start this program. And hopefully everything will go well enough with COVID and all the protocols that we can actually get it off the ground. Last year, obviously it just didn't work out. We didn't have any candidates that wanted to take us up on it. This year, I think it's going to be a little bit more, especially with the talks about how good of an idea it is going to be well received.
Absolutely. I think it's great. I mean, I still credit my time in Pittsburgh being able to do both with Chris and Matt. One of the most knowledgeable summers that I have. And if I had time for golf at some point, that'd be great. I'm going to sort of shift it towards the day-to-day type of things. We'll start with off on the road. So you had a 10-day homestand. What is the time frame between the next homestand and the end of that one you just had? What does that look like for you and your staff and what you're doing?
Well, it all starts when I have meetings with other front office individuals in the off season. So by October, November, we already have our schedule of what we're gonna plan for the next season, as well as far as extra events. So if the team just left for a 10-game homestand, my number one goal to try to convince other front office individuals is that the field needs a break, right? We just went through 10 games. The stress on the turf is, immense right now. I need at least a day or two off for that turf to kind of just have a break and recover. Like Ryland and I were just talking about a few minutes ago, when it's too much. Well, it's too much after a 10-game homestand and 100 degrees and 5 rain dates out of that. And so the field needs time off. So I'll secure at least 2 days off after a homestand with nothing planned on the field. Then everybody else can kind of cherry pick dates in that break of the away stand for extra events or commercial shoots or the like. And then also we can plan our agronomic side of it. Do we need to resod any areas? Do we need to aerate? Do we need to spray a chemical when nobody is absolutely in the ballpark? Fertilize schedule, all that stuff is planned in the off season. And then we just adjust as we can, as the season presents itself, because Mother Nature will always throw a wrench into everything too.
Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Lovely being.
So it's a lot of planning, a lot of outlook for the schedule, a lot of kind of understanding your schedule of not only your games, but also what you need to do agronomically on that field. And also pepper in what everybody else needs to do to create revenue for that field.
For sure. during a homestand, during a long homestand, we had Luke Yoder on a previous podcast as well, and he sort of talked about the different products that he works with Dura Edge. What kind of products are you using on your infield skin, and what is your sort of maintenance practices in the sense of day to day working with it and making sure that it's at the top peak performance shape so that there's no bad hops or anything, and good cleat in,
Yeah.
cleat out contact? What is it you're doing on a daily basis to ensure that your players are getting the best out of that infield skin?
Right. So the dirt is probably one of like the most crucial parts of the the baseball management side of it. We'll start our day out like either nailing the infield, rolling it, raking out any imperfections from like the games that have happened before, doing any dirt work, repairs, just like clay repair to your mound. We'll fill any holes or low spots. Really, it's a dedicated an individual is dedicated to maintaining that dirt every single day. So we'll start out doing that kind of stuff. And then water management on that field is like huge. So we'll water as much as possible, give like almost flood the infield. So it's taking in as much moisture as possible. So that ball bounce is a little bit softer for that infielder. Other than that, using the Dura Edge products, we're kind of a mixture of Dura Edge and the old Oriole Park mix. So it's not 100% Dura Edge, it's a blend. And that's just really tailored to like our climate and our moisture needs. Not a lot of people use vitrified. A lot of people use the calcined clay on their field, but we use it we like the smaller angular granulars, and it also has colors that match our warehouse, which is something that we really need to focus on being our retro ballpark.
So could you explain to us what a typical game day looks like with a 7:05 start time
Yep.
for you and your crew?
On a perfect day with no weather, we'll start around 9 o'clock in the morning and we'll cut the grass in 2 different directions. Somebody will be working on the infield dirt, doing any kind of maintenance to that. Base paths will be addressed. Bullpens will get addressed in the morning as well. So there's only really a 4-hour time frame to have all that kind of work done. And then we'll take a break. And then at 1 o'clock, we're getting ready for batting practice. So it's kind of crazy to think that like the players are out there that early, but they start approaching the field and working out on the field close to 1:30 every single day. So we'll have to set up for that, try to hurry up and fix up anything that was, wrecked by the athletes in between sessions, and then get ready for the game. Closer to 6 o'clock, we'll start prepping the field for the actual game. And then 7 o'clock through 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, we're just focused on our in-game duties. And then right after the game is when we really focus on the infield, getting that raked out and prepped for the next day, because we always leave it in almost 100% playable conditions. So like if we had a crazy incident overnight, like a sprinkler head broke or, pop-up thunderstorm happened, we can go in knowing that field's ready to play. We don't have too much to address. We'll also fix the mound in the main or the home plate area after a game. So that's ready to go. And we don't have to worry about that in the morning because it's such a short time frame to do all that work in before the athletes come out there and work.
Now,
it's a crazy day. It's a long day.
It is. It's a fun day, though. There's a lot of fun stuff going on.
Yeah.
Something I've always been curious about, especially with like from head groundskeeper to head groundskeeper. Like I tried to pick Bill Deacon's head in New York, and then Matt, obviously. What is your decision-making process on the tarp and whether or not to put it on the field overnight? What is it that your decision-making process is for that? Because I'm always curious because it differs for people, and whether it's a 30% chance or 10%, whatever it is, what is your decision-making process?
My decision-making comes from a lot of prep during the game to make that final decision. A few things. So what's the day going to be like the next day? Is it going to be humid? Is it going to be sunny? Is it going to be cloudy? Is it going to do we have another chance of rain the next day? Those are driving force on like making that decision overnight. So by the end of the game, I'll know whether if it's a 30% chance of rain overnight, I'm going to put that tarp on. But if it's only a 30% chance with a possible pop-up storm, and the next morning is going to be sunny, low humidity, and a windy day, and we don't have a game until 7:05, I'm going to probably throw the dice and not put it on. So it really comes down to like looking at the weather outlook for overnight, the next day, what time the game's going to get played, and if we're like, am I going to sleep at night making this decision, or am I going to be like waking up every hour looking at the radar, hoping that it's not going to be something that caught us off guard, which has happened many times. So put that stress on myself or my crew the next day. I mean, we're there. We have to get that game in. You're talking about millions and millions of dollars. I don't want to say millions and millions, but like millions of dollars that rely on you getting that game in. And if one night of it being tarped can make that happen, I'm going to do that.
Oh yeah, that's we. I use this as a lesson during my classes. I show a video. I don't know if you remember, New York. I think it was 2016. Couldn't get the tarp on the field.
Yeah.
In the ninth inning, it haunts me. It was 2 outs, 1-2 count. Darius Familia had 30 saves at this point, no blown saves. They gave him a home run. And the umpires let it rain for about 5 minutes before we were called because of like, oh, he's going to get him out. It's fine. It's fine. It was the end of a homestand, so we weren't going to put the tarp on. And then everything went wrong. But we had to stay for an extra hour after we couldn't get the tarp on and fix the whole field to make sure we could play that half inning because it's that important to the MLB, so.
Right. And it's the umpire's decision at that time. They're thinking it's a 1-2 count,
Exactly.
2 outs, the greatest closer in the game is coming in. Like, yeah, you'll get it out, but then that's when it always goes sideways and you're like, oh my gosh, this is
we
like
always
the worst.
take the flack for the umps, and the umps get to walk inside and be dry.
Yeah, they're the first ones that leave the field, and then we're out there in the rain and the thunder and the lightning bolts are coming down and the tornadoes and
Nice guys.
Yeah.
So when we were in our virtual tour last year, we saw your chalkers, and you explained to us that they were from the Memorial Stadium and everything like that. And again, the atmosphere is all about tradition and whatnot. Can you explain how important it is to you as sort of a crew and sort of a workplace to keep that tradition with the grounds crew, even if it's not with front office or anything, but with your crew and that understanding of Camden Yards?
Yeah. So, a lot of people that get into like this field or come into, having a part-time job with the Orioles, whether it's on like tarp crew or grounds crew, they don't really understand the tradition or the history behind, where Camden Yards started. That we have a lot of relics from Memorial Stadium that were brought over to the new ballpark because, people loved Memorial Stadium, and then to just like gut it and rip it down and then not have any relics from that is tough for the born and raised Baltimore fans to accept. So when we show that we have chalkers from Memorial Stadium or that the left field foul pole was brought over from Memorial Stadium, it kind of gives people, whether it's my crew or just people in general, like the kind of feeling like, wow, this does have ghosts of the past that were brought over to make this new ballpark. They didn't forget about the tradition and coming up an Oriole and what that means to the city of Baltimore and to Maryland in general. So I think having those kind of items around and sharing with the younger generations about how things were back then is huge. And to be able to use a piece of equipment that is over 40 years old and it puts down one of the greatest chalk lines ever, I mean, hands down, that's pretty cool, and it's silly, to some people, but for us and the tradition and the ghosts of the past that, still are part of our ballpark. I mean, that's pretty special. And for Baltimore.
For sure. I still think it's so cool how you guys do that. An MLB season is a long marathon, and with the grounds crew prepping 80 plus times on your field, not including the playoffs, which no offense to the Orioles haven't been in a while, but that's not your fault, obviously.
Hey, now.
Not your fault. Not your fault.
We're rebuilding.
How do you keep the crew's morale up? Even with all those events, it's even more crazy, and you get more frustrated sometimes when, we're adding this family event on the field, so you can't work for 3 hours a day, and that adds time and whatnot.
Right.
How do you keep the crew's morale up during the heart of the season?
Right. So a lot of the times it's emotionally and physically draining, we're dedicating hours and days of our lives, away from our families, away from our friends, away from, just normal life outside of the ballpark. And that's taxing on a lot of individuals. And for us as a crew, for motivation, it could be something really simple like, hey guys, I'm going to buy pizza for us tonight, and they get so excited. And when I was in Trenton, after a very hard, long homestand, I would take the guys to Taco Bell. And you would think that was like winning $1,000. It was just a breakaway, something that was light and fun. And also
Taco Bell. I'm just going to say
Taco Bell, so you got to head for the border, so going to Taco Bell or getting pizza or Chick-fil-A for the crew, just little things or T-shirts or letting them wear shorts on non-game days, like huge little things that make a big impact to somebody that just put in 100 hours of hard, grueling work is big. And it sounds minimal, but those little things really can make or break a crew. It's a long, fun, but yet grueling homestand. And if we can just do something to lighten the mood, or I think one thing that we did, we got an extra money from hosting some kind of event, and I bought a stereo system for the shop. So we'll put that on during the day, and everybody can choose whatever kind of music they want to chill out to or get excited about, and have dance offs, and just try to make it fun. And also bought a basketball hoop to put in our shop to kind of break up the monotony of the day, and we'll play knockout or horse or something silly, just to kind of have a little bit of a recess time.
So you've explained how amazing your crew is, and whether it's an assistant or a part-time guy. How do you know, what is your decision-making process? How do you know they're great? How do you know that they are these great people?
Well, it's gonna, when you're interviewing for a job, you're not gonna be your own personal self, right? I have a different type of personality than what you may have. So if you come and meet me for the first time, you might be a little bit reserved. So I look for a little bit more than that. I want to know, you're passionate about what you're trying to do in your career or in your future. I want to know that you are a dedicated person to your schooling. I want to know that you didn't get into any fights or get expelled from school. Those things are a little bit telling, and also I want to be able to kind of shoot the breeze with you a little bit, see where your level of jokes can go. Can you laugh at me, or will you laugh with me, type of thing. Just those different things I look for, and that's for the personality side, because it is a long day that you're working with all different types of people. So you have to be able to adjust to different personalities and see if you can get through those grueling days that we just described. Another aspect of what I look for in an individual that wants to come work for us is are you going to take physical labor hands-on? Are you really ready for the physical aspects of this kind of job? Anybody can cut grass, anybody can rake dirt, but are you ready to tamp for 5 hours at a time? Are you ready to work 12-hour days and then come in the next day ready to go for a big construction project? Those types of things I want to see from an individual. You don't have to have the greatest GPA. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world as far as like the science side of it goes. I want to see if you're really ready and excited to work on a daily basis.
And sort of going with all that, I always find it interesting to ask questions like this because I don't know if it catches people off guard or whatnot, but I just sort of want to see what your thoughts are. What type of leadership style do you believe best fits you, the way you manage your crew, whether it's a day-to-day basis or a season-long thing? What is it that you think is your sort of leadership style?
I think my leadership style comes from being open and honest about a lot of things, sharing like trials, tribulations, and great things with my crew on a daily basis. Like whatever I have to do on a daily basis, I'm going to tell my crew that this is what I'm doing. I'm not going to hide my budget. I'm not going to hide, my decision making and the choices that lead up to, or like, the choices that lead up to a final decision. I'm gonna get their input. I'm gonna like work collaboratively with them because, Andrew might have a different idea about something. I may say like, we shouldn't aerate. And he said, no, we should. Or I say like, well, we can't overseed. It's too hot. No, we need to seed bank. Like these are like the conversations that I have with my crew because, I don't know it all. And I'm going to take input from them and hopefully they take input from me. So I think that's what makes a good leader, somebody that is willing to like get in the ditches with you and be alongside of you and also be able to like, hear you, to listen and to really get through some things like that, are challenges. And I don't know, I think that's the best part of it is like, I'm not the smartest person when it comes to the science side of the Turfgrass. I'll lean on Andrew and maybe other leaders in our industry or sales reps that will help me out with that. But I know Oriole Park at Camden Yards. I know what kind of like things happen on that grass that, that maybe Andrew or Michael cannot really see. So I think collaborative effort is what really drives my leadership, I guess. I don't really know how else to say it.
For sure. No, that's awesome. And that's huge. And I told a few people about it. Like that makes working for someone so much better, because you feel like you're a part of it. It's not like just a job. It's your guys' space,
like there's some groundskeepers that like they won't let anybody else water, like they won't let anybody else cut the infield or cut the pattern in. And I'm like, why not? Like let's all work together. Like it makes it fun. It makes, and I don't want to be that way. And, I'm sure there are days where I have my days and everybody has their day, but, just trying to really be more of a team. Yeah. Day with tie day. It's like, I really just want to have like a fluid working environment where like I want to hear what their concerns or their opinions are, or and I want them to hear mine as well. So that's kind of how I flow with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I recently saw you posted that you are the new president of the Mid-Atlantic Sports Turf Managers Association. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And you're also a member of the national board for the professional sporting?
I don't know. Yes, it's probably a director or the
director of professional grounds or something.
Yeah,
it's something along those lines.
I represent the professional side of the industry for STMA.
Managers. Yes.
Yep.
Could you sort of explain the significance of the STMA to you and your career and what it's like to be a part of these different organizations now on such a high level?
Yeah, I think it number one for coming up in my career, I was like an intern and a grounds crew member. And like when you're going to these national, conferences or like you're part of like a local chapter of your STMA, it's the networking more than anything else for me. It's meeting people that, you can sit with and you say like, hey, I have this challenge. And then they say, hey, I have that too. And then like, just broaden in that networking skill and being able to, like I said, rely on other people in the industry for help when you know that you're in a bind. Also, just the science part of it and the research or the education part of it, like listening to some of the presentations of things that you were never exposed to before. Like it's cool, if you can just dedicate an hour or two to listen to somebody talk about, annual bluegrass weevil, like that's going to affect my grass at some point. So yeah, why not? Like it's just neat to be exposed to different aspects of this industry. And, going back to what I said in the beginning, it's not just raking dirt and cutting grass. Like there's so many like neat, fascinating things that are involved in this industry, that being a part of these conferences on the national or the local chapter area is huge for exposure to see where you want to go in your career.
Absolutely. And I've always said that's how I met all my current or former bosses, and it's a life changer for me. So I'm always curious to see what people think, and especially people like you who are playing such a big role in it now. I want to ask one more like management question, and I know it's a lot, but
No, it's fine.
With COVID and everything that happened this past year, I sort of want to gauge what like went through your head. The fact that we talked to you right before that whirlwind started. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before players reported to Camden Yards, having spring training in the stadium, having all the workouts on the same field when you have a facility down in Florida where you have 8 fields, where you have all this space where traffic is not focused on just one spot, and then having pretty much how many home games? Did you have 30 home games? Was that about
30.
right? Okay. So
Yep.
still having a large amount of volume of games after the fact, and really with everything, how did that sort of impact how you managed the field and how everything went this year for you and your crew?
Everything kind of just went right out the door. It was awful. Obviously, like back then, when I first talked to you guys, like, things were like new and we didn't understand this virus and we didn't understand how it was contracted, or like, God forbid you touch something and then you're going to get COVID. It was like very fear driven back then. And then we were going along and it was just myself, Andrew, and Mike that were able to like be at the ballpark. Our crew had to be kind of like, on standby or kind of laid off for the time being. And then, we had a week's notice to get everything up and running. And by the way, you're going to host spring training 2.0 with 60 guys on your field from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night for 30 days in a row. And you're like, well, how am I going to keep this grass alive? And they say, well, I don't know. You have to figure it out. And I was just like, and then throw in the virus.
No money. You get no money.
Yeah, you're just going to do it. And, everybody's going to have to lower their expectations. And then you throw the virus in there and like, you're not allowed to touch that, or you need to wipe up after that, or you need to like carry a Lysol can with you everywhere you go. And I'm being like, sarcastic there, but, adjusting to the protocol. Yeah, adjusting to the protocols of the virus and trying to get these games in, and knowing that you're going to play without fans. And at the field held up for quite a while. We got fortunate that we didn't have a lot of rain like we usually do in the past. So even though we were in drought and it was hotter than anything, we didn't have that rain to like mess up spring training. Like we didn't have to put the tarp on too much, and we didn't have to cancel any practices or do double time if there was any rain. But after the season started getting underway and we all got kind of used to the protocols and like the new normal, we got through it. And it was a shorter season, but it was so compounded with traffic that it really the field suffered so much that we were planning on resodding it. And then we ended up overseeding due to budget restraints and trying to really get it going in October when things started to slow down for us a little bit. So it was probably one of the worst years of my life as far as the agronomic side of taking care of the field with just that much traffic, but also it did allow a lot more time with family and taking a little bit more of a easing into it a little bit easier than what a normal season would present.
So you are such an inspiration for females everywhere.
Thanks,
And
Ryland.
yeah. So being one of two female groundskeepers in the whole MLB, what was that experience like in a male dominated industry? How was
Yeah, how was that, right? I mean,
yeah.
coming up in school, like I had a lot of women in my classes with me, sitting next to me in classes. So I didn't think anything of it. And then when you get into like Major League Baseball as like a 22-year-old in 2001, then you realize that, hey, not a lot of women do this, and why not? And it's just because I think that we're not exposed to it. We're not really exposed that you can have a really good career in turfgrass in general, right? And then in Major League Baseball or in sports, like we just watch it on TV. We never really see the behind the scenes. So being a female in this industry was a little bit shocking because, like I said, I had a bunch of females in all my classes, and there are many in golf course maintenance. So it was a little bit of a shock, but exposure now more than ever, representation matters. So like when I'm out there on the field and, fans see us or see me, they can start relating groundskeeping to not just male anymore. There's females that do this as well. So I think that's really what drives it. And then just the get an exposure out there that, women are in this industry and we can do this, and, just making it more known to the public.
And with everything with that, I mean, you do so much more than just for females, but you do it for sort of the future turfgrass manager. Could you sort of explain how important that is to you to sort of raise the awareness, but also educate the next generation and bring in that next level of turfgrass managers?
Yeah, just like you guys are doing on a daily basis. Like, I want people to understand that, like, again, it's not just about raking grass or raking dirt and cutting grass. Like, there's so much more science involved to it. And there's so many really neat and fascinating things that you can do with a career in turfgrass science or turfgrass maintenance, leaps and bounds above anything other than just, cutting grass. So I want the future turf individuals to know that there's so many things out there waiting for you, that don't just kind of like get stuck in one, side of turf, experience it all while you can at a young age, and like take these internships, try soccer one day, or try football another day, or try golf, or research or the science part of it, like so many cool things. And that I just want to, maybe use my platform or be in the position that I am to like really expose people that maybe didn't get into turf science, that, hey, this is a really neat career. And if you like being outside and you don't see yourself sitting behind a desk on a daily basis, like maybe consider a career in turf, and exposing them to that kind of background or, industry is what my goal is.
Sounds fantastic. So we usually end it on these last two questions. The first one is if you could tell yourself one thing from now, when you first started, whether it's starting as a head groundskeeper or starting back in 2001, if there's anything you could tell yourself, one thing to make life easier, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, that's a tough one. To make life easier, I probably would have paid more attention in the science part of my classwork. Just that would have been easier. Computers, gosh, if you guys can like really just excel at Excel, that's huge, or any Outlook or Microsoft platform, do it. Maybe not being as shy as I was like coming up, and really leaning on other people and talking more. I know that's kind of like hard to see now because I'm so bubbly in my personality, but like I was definitely shy in this industry and wish I would have like taken the reins a lot sooner in my career. So that's what I would tell my older, like past self.
And then we wrap it up with this question with everyone. Not really focused on turf or the green industry. What would be your words of wisdom to the kids for kids coming out of high school, whether it's going into a job, whether it's going to college? What would you say is important to know or important to do as a student coming out of high school?
Oh gosh. Yeah, try to be as confident as possible. Like you are you, you're unique, like show that in any kind of like interview or any, communication that you have with another individual. Like just get out there and expose yourself to, a whole different side of, I don't know what, like different side of things that you can, oh God, how do I say that? Just take chances, you know what I mean, like to expose yourself to other things in this industry or other things in careers that you might not have ever thought about, like and just try to be your confident self. And also like speak, use your voice. Like you guys, like you're in a generation that is incredible, and like own that, like really own that. And that's what I would say, just be confident in yourself, speak up, show who you are.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today. What do you guys say?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish I could see you all. You don't have your videos on.
They don't turn it on for me either, if that makes you feel better. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the time. We hope 2021 is way better than 2020 in all
Yes.
aspects of the word better,
Yeah.
And thank you again. So
Yeah. And I'll leave it like this with, you guys, like if anybody wants to come to Baltimore, where to find me. My email is nsherry@orioles.com. Come up, come visit for a day, see a game, and, maybe get a little behind the scenes tour. Like you guys got you.
well, look at that, guys. A little all access
Okay.
pass,
Yes. Yeah, go out.